everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unbalanced with me, Cerys Davage. How are you all doing? I'm so excited because we're in a new little era of Unbalanced. I feel like we're entering a new chapter. And one of those things is that we're in a new location today and we've got a guest coming on. And this guest is extremely special to me because we've been friends for a while now. We met through Muscular Dystrophy UK. And basically, since I started the podcast, he's been begging to come on the podcast, and it's finally happening 3 years later. Jed, hello.
Hello, Cerys. How are you doing?
I'm so good, thank you. We are both in the podcast room today in London. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's a lovely, lovely setting we've got around us. It's a bit surreal to finally be on the podcast. It's been 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. I've been just pleading to be included. It was getting to the point where I was getting quite offended that I hadn't been brought on. But no, thank you for making the journey down to London to come and do this. I'm excited.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast finally. I was like, Jed is just too good to just do it online when I knew that we see each other often enough to make
Yeah.
it happen in person. So it's finally happening. So obviously I know you quite well by now, but tell our audiences a bit about you. Where are you from and what do you do?
Okay, so where do we begin? So my name is Jed Thirkettle. I grew up in Buckinghamshire and Hertfordshire way, but currently living in Aldgate, in the middle of London. And what do I do? Well, I currently run my own protein drinks company. It's a company called JUCED, JUCED, and I've been doing that full time since March 2025. So it's still in its startup stage. But the idea is it's like a natural, clean alternative to protein shakes, which are full of loads of rubbish. But that's what I'm doing day in, day out. And probably want a bit of context on why I'm here as well in terms of my condition and what I've got going on. So as you said, we met through Muscular Dystrophy UK. And the reason I'm involved with them is because I've got auric congenital muscular dystrophy. So different strand, but muscular dystrophy nonetheless. And yeah, I've been involved with the charity, I think, since I was first diagnosed years and years ago. My parents got involved, and then I've sort of the past 3 or 4 years, I've taken over the reins and tried to get a bit more involved myself as well. My parents are fed up of running half marathons, so they've decided someone else needs to do it now. But yeah, I'm 26 years old now, turning 27 this year. So I'm getting old as well, which is a scary thought.
I'm not that far behind you. We're both in our 20s
Yeah.
and you've done so much in like such a short amount of time. I mean, even when I first started the podcast, Juiced wasn't a thing. You wanted to come on the podcast, but that would have looked very different. So I'm very glad we waited until
Yeah.
Juiced was a thing because now you can just show off about Juiced.
It's just it's a promotional opportunity for me to be on here. That's all it is in front of your audience. This is it's just a new target for me. It's great.
Well,
So
this is not sponsored in any way, but obviously as your friend,
yet.
yet. Okay, well if Juice wants to sponsor Unbalance, I'm down.
Let me try and pay my wage first and then we'll then we'll talk about it.
But as a friend, I really want to just shout from the rooftops about what you do, because what you do not only for just your company, but just to raise awareness is just absolutely incredible. And you've had a couple of different projects going on before Juice that I'm sure we'll get into. But for those who maybe don't know much about ulric congenital muscular dystrophy,
Yeah.
what is it?
Christ. I mean, I'm still learning about it. I mean, it's I've got the basic pitch that you probably give to everyone. I'm sure you've got your own pitch as well when you're trying to explain it to people. So layman's terms, my muscles are just a lot weaker than your average Joe. And my body's constantly trying to break down. My muscles constantly trying to deteriorate and get weaker and weaker over time. So obviously, muscular dystrophy is a big spectrum of conditions. Huge variety and severities. Auric, I'd say, is slightly more towards the severe side typically. Where when I was diagnosed, I was told that I'd be in a wheelchair by the age of 12. So it is quite a aggressively progressive strand of muscular dystrophy. I'm one of these anomalies apparently where my condition doesn't, although I genetically have been identified as having auric, I don't act like I have it. You know, I act like a strand that might be slightly less severe than auric. They've no idea why. My parents don't have the condition, nor do they have the recessive gene to pass on this condition. It's purely a mutation in the womb, essentially, when I was being born. But yeah, I mean, it affects everyone very differently. For me, the main things that I'd say day in, day out are the difficult things are, I go to the gym quite a lot, but I'm not lifting very heavy weights at all. I'm not going on long runs. Going up and down stairs can be a little bit more difficult for me, especially depending on the tread or the height of the stair, which, yeah, when you speak to your average person, they don't really get what you mean. Whereas for me, I know exactly if a stair is taller or shorter. Like I know at some tube stations, the first step is probably 2 or 3 centimeters taller than the rest of them, and all of those things that sort of affects me. Um, and yeah, just I'm not doing anything where you're using your muscles is just that bit harder for me. I think that's the easiest way to put it. We can go into the more science side of stuff, and my body has. I think you've got three types of genes, and they are collagen one A1, 2, and 3. And one of those has a defect in my body, which is what leads to me having this condition. I can't remember which one, it's 1 or 3. But that's essentially the more sciencey reason behind it. It's a defect in the way the muscle fibers, I guess, are trying to layer. It'd be like making bricks in a house, and if constantly every third brick is eroded or not there, then the house itself is never going to be strong because you've got so many missing parts. That's the way I sort of think about it.
Interesting. I think mine is, I mean, if we're using like the bricklaying term,
Yes.
the cement that holds the bricks together, that's the bit for me
Okay.
that doesn't work very well, and therefore my muscles aren't supported enough to be able to grow. Instead, they break down.
Right. Okay.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
think I think that's it. I could be wrong,
No,
but
that's
I mean, it's interesting that your condition is not even passed down from your parents.
no,
So there was no way of even being able to predict it.
no.
But it
Yeah.
sounds like you're defying a lot of the odds.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why. I mean, so I've got an older sister. She is 30, and no condition. Again, everyone, once we found out when I was diagnosed at 8, which is quite a late diagnosis, everyone got genetically tested, and there's no one in the family, extended family, nothing at all. Um, so yeah, complete mutation. Made it myself, but I can't win the lottery. Yeah, I think got diagnosed at 8 years old, which was a really late diagnosis. And I know for a lot of people, it's the same story. Parents kept going to the doctors saying, like, he's missing these milestones. He's not crawling as quickly. He's not walking. He's not running when all of your other friends are. And, when I'm quick kicking around a ball on the football field with my friends, I'm not kicking it as hard or as fast. And all these obvious signs. And the doctors just said, look, he's going to catch up. By the time he's 8 years old, he would have caught up with everyone. He'll be absolutely fine. And then fast forward to 8, hadn't caught up. In fact, everyone's probably getting even stronger and faster and fitter. And so went and got a muscle biopsy done, which is where they take that little piece of muscle tissue, run a load of tests on it, and that's when we're given the news. So yeah, it's a relatively late diagnosis as well. I'm not sure if that comes into play in terms of those key years when you're developing and growing, if being diagnosed late has helped me. I, I, I don't know. I think everyone is so different. That's what you learn when you speak to everyone. So yeah, it's an anomaly. I don't know why I'm the way I am, but here we are.
Hmm. Even though you say that you were diagnosed quite late in life, 8 is still obviously quite young, and maybe I don't know if that contributed to you being able to accept your diagnosis as you got older. Because I imagine if we got diagnosed at this age, because I was diagnosed at around 8 as well, I imagine if I got diagnosed now, it would be like a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good point actually, because so a lot of people always ask me to say, what was it like when you were diagnosed? How did it feel? How did you take it? How did you accept it? It's like, well, I was in the other corner of the room playing with toys or something whilst my parents got the diagnosis. I wasn't
Yeah.
actually diagnosed myself. So for me, nothing changed. It was there was no difference in my life whatsoever. I just now had a name about something that I've got that was going to be like that for the rest of my life. But I'd lived with whatever that was for 8 years anyway. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. I don't have that moment of remembering, oh, this is how it was. I think I probably pieced something fake together in my mind based on what my parents have told me. But they were the ones that got diagnosed. They're the ones whose life changed from having a child without a muscle wasting, life threatening condition to having a child that does have a muscle wasting, life threatening condition. So, yeah, I think that definitely helped, but it sounds bad as well. When you're older, you're probably more aware of what's going on and stuff, and you'd probably have more hope that maybe I don't have this condition, or maybe it's this or that, or whatever you've Googled and diagnosed yourself with. Whereas when you're younger, you don't have that sort of, oh, if only, or could it be this, could it be that? So there's no sort of crushing realization either, I don't think. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a cynical way to put it, but when you're younger, you're a bit more, yeah, okay, it is what it is, and you carry on. Whereas when you're older, it is like life changing. So
Absolutely, yeah. And I can relate to that so much. Like it was my parents that took on the burden, I
yeah,
guess, and the shock of the diagnosis. And like you said, I was just a little kid. I was just playing around, and I knew that there was something going on with my muscles, but you just can't really fathom the severity of it when you're
mm.
that young.
Did you
But
ever have a moment where they sat you down and said, look, this is what you've got?
that's
And
interesting. That's a big thing that I get asked when I go on other people's podcasts. So it was around 12 that I started to show symptoms, and I knew that there was something going on with my muscles. Obviously, I was going to Great Ormond Street every year for a checkup, but
yeah,
everything was always fine. But I started to realize that I was like different from my peers when I was always the last in sports day races. And I think I was going on like a school trip or something in high school, in my first year of high school, and I had to like return a form, like a medical form,
yeah,
and I noticed limb-girdle muscular dystrophy on it, and I was like,
okay,
"Mum, what is that?" And she was like, "Oh well, I guess it's time for you to know the name." I guess they didn't want me to look up the symptoms beforehand before I was actually experiencing them, because it's such a rare condition, and you might agree, everyone is affected so differently. I think it's kind of more damaging to look it up than to just kind of go with how you are, and
yeah,
you know your body better than anyone. And now that I've got this diagnosis name hand in hand with who I actually am, and I'm trying not to think about, oh, what am I going to be like at this age? Because when I was starting to get a bit more familiar with my condition, they would say like, "Oh, you'll probably be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30." But I used a wheelchair for the first time when I was 16, and I'd still use it sometimes now, but not full time. And I try not to think like, "Oh, at what age is this going to happen, or when are these milestones going to hit?" I try to just kind of focus on right
yeah. And I
now.
think, when you start comparing as well, because everyone's so different, if you are comparing yourself and actually you end up ahead of whatever that milestone is, you probably think you're doing worse than others. Therefore, the next milestone is going to come even quicker. Or actually, it can be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's almost like a weight off your shoulders that shouldn't necessarily be lifted in terms of, well, it's okay if I hit that point and stuff. It's exactly like you said. I just run off my own body and how I'm feeling in that moment. But I imagine if you're a lot younger and you see that you believe that you're heading that way, you might just do little things each day that push you towards that direction.
Mm,
You might not, but you might. It's all of those little things. So I think you put it the best way there. It's just, how are you feeling on each day? You're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but how you're feeling, and then go off of that and create your own milestones, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. Yeah, just don't Google it. I mean, everyone else knows if you Google a headache, it comes out with the worst things that you could possibly have,
Yeah.
and you're sort of aware of that now. Whereas when you Google your condition, you just accept fully what's on the screen. I don't know why that disconnect is. Always going to see the worst stuff online. That's the way the website and social media and everything is built. So just take everything with a pinch of salt and
Yeah.
go off how you feel. I think it's the best way.
Definitely. And I think muscular dystrophy is a really good resource as well for
Yeah.
these conditions and, specific charities. For my condition, I don't know, is there an Ulrich charity?
I don't know. I know that I've been heavily involved with Muscular Dystrophy UK. And the fundraising I've done in the past, we make sure it specifically goes towards auric research
Okay.
into like research into those muscle wasting conditions. I'm sure there are communities. I don't know about a specific charity. I think where I haven't followed that typical path that was set out for me for Ulrich. It's that weird sort of middle ground where, I know what I have, but also not necessarily in the Ulrich community. It's not very relatable for me. So sometimes I don't necessarily need to go and find that specific community there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a weird one. Even when it's such a big spectrum of things, I think even when you've been diagnosed with something rare, and it doesn't necessarily just mean, oh, I found my people, because even within that, everyone's got such a different experience that you can be like, well, hang on, why am I not like this? Or, oh, I struggle more with this than they do. But then someone else is looking at you going, oh, how can you do that?
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very strange one. Sometimes you can end up relating more to people who have a very different form of the condition or something completely different altogether, but you just come up against the same challenges.
Absolutely. I think I relate to you more than a lot of people with my condition, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad of the like wider MD community. But yeah, everyone is just so varied, and I often think like, oh, on my bad days, like, oh, is this it now? Like, is this gonna be day one of the rest of my life? But then I have to remember the good days and bad days fluctuate a lot, and I shouldn't compare myself to other people because
Yeah.
that's gonna do more harm than good as well.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's you gotta look after your mental health as well, and the next to it all. So
Yeah.
yeah, just I think the more you get bogged down with looking into stuff and thinking, oh, is it this? Is it the end? Is this where it all goes downhill for me and stuff? It's just gonna get to you mentally. So
Yeah.
it's like, say you can start to think, oh no, is this where it goes wrong? But then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel great.
Mhm.
So and then there's just no point weighing yourself down with all of that.
That's the joys of having muscular dystrophy. It really
So
keeps you on your
fun. It's
toes, doesn't
so
it?
good. I love it.
I want to ask about, kind of you got your diagnosis at 8, you grew up with it then with the knowledge of it. How did you find like school or like high school, becoming like a teenager, growing up into yourself? How did you find that alongside having Ulrich?
It's a really good question. I mean, obviously I got bullied at school. I think
Obviously.
that's a given. But
Oh, bless you.
I think like that's pretty normal. But it was a weird one. I didn't get bullied in terms of I wasn't being picked on by everyone. I had really good group of friends. I'd say I was relatively popular at primary school and secondary school, but you do still have the one or two people that would pick on you. But I feel like that's just a give. Everyone's been bullied to some degree, unless you're like
Mm,
the best at sport in the year. Yeah, it was a strange one because I think sport I was never in the top teams, and a lot of times, especially as a boy, that's where your popularity comes from, is being sporty, basically. Who's the fastest in school, who's the best at sport in school. But I was still very coordinated, so I could keep up with people and play sport with them, just not at a high level. I was quite academic. I was quite good at like drama and things like that, music. So I think it just pushed me more into my other strengths as opposed to being physical. So yeah, it wasn't an awful experience. I think it does make you lead into what you are better at, and then people appreciate you and respect you for that sort of thing that you're good at. I know, yeah, as I say, drama was sort of a big thing for me growing up, but I was also very fortunate that I went to lovely schools. So I think that helps massively. So my experience, even compared to people without muscular dystrophy, would have been a fantastic experience still compared to 99% of the population. So
mm,
I'm very fortunate in that sense. It was funny when I was moving from primary school to secondary school. My parents were very conscious that they wanted me to go with a big group of friends who knew what I was dealing with and what condition I had. So again, that you've got that group around you to sort of keep you supported and keep you safe. So I ended up going to a school where most of my other friends were going. And within a term, I'd basically made a bunch of new friends and barely spoke to the old school lot anyway. So, whatever's going to happen will happen. It is interesting. I don't know if you have the same experience, but sometimes you've got to separate when school sucked because of your condition. So, like, when everyone's getting ready to play sport and you really don't want to do it because it's humiliating and it's embarrassing, and I don't want to be out on the sports pitch running around with people who actually I was in the teams of people that didn't enjoy sport, and I was there trying to have a good game and stuff, but I just wasn't very good at it. Versus bad experiences of school just because you didn't like that bit of school. Everyone has some bad
Mm.
experiences in school. That's just it. So, but again, overall, I can't complain. I think it just is the odd bit of being picked on, and just that discomfort whenever it would come to PE or whatever you called it, sports, games, whatever you called that slot 3 times a week, I think it was. Yeah, just that, let me just get through this. But growing up, I mean, I hit puberty a lot earlier than everyone. So I think I started getting, like, hairy legs at 12 or something like that. So I think that helped my case in it, if anything, because again, there's this misconception that, the coolest, manliest boys in school were the ones that were best at sport. So I think maybe me being hairy, my voice breaking way like 2 years before everyone helped my case a bit in terms of people making the assumption that he's not this weakling or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know, all these things put together. At the time, obviously, when your voice is breaking, it's a horrendous experience, but that's not a muscular dystrophy thing. That's a 13, 14-year-old boy thing, where everyone's taking the mick, and then you come out the other side of it, and then everyone else starts cracking and going, and you're like, "Yes, this is brilliant." So, yeah, no, I think it was good. It was okay. I can't complain. It was a lovely school. Had a lot of really good opportunities as well. I was head boy in my secondary school. Do you
I'm
call it
not
high school?
surprised.
You're not surprised? I don't know if
No.
that's a good thing.
No, I feel like you're just like I feel like to get head boy, you need to have that charm that everyone will want to vote for you. So, and I feel like you're charming enough to be a good head
Thank
boy,
you.
I think.
Thank you. I won the teachers' vote and the student vote to get head
Wow, look
boy,
at that.
so it's my claim to fame. Um,
It was all downhill from there.
It was all downhill, yeah, yeah. Then it was just, yeah, it all went wrong. But yeah, I still think about my sixth form yearbook, the accolades that I got voted for in there, and I'm trying to make them come true. But I don't think they will. They might. But yeah, as I say, I was very fortunate that I went to lovely institutions.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's just I don't know what yours was like. Was it fun at school? I didn't enjoy school, but nothing to do with the condition.
Yeah.
I hate exams and learning and academics. So I just never thought it was going to be applicable to life. And unfortunately, now that I've started my business, you're on the same plane as everyone else. I haven't learned a single thing going through school or university that has helped me start my business at all.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's crazy.
It's all like life experience these days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely relate to you on the side of PE, like absolutely hated it.
yeah.
Hated like cross country. We did that once a year and I was determined a few years to do it and then I would like collapse halfway through and then all my muscles would seize up and I'd be like, why can't I just do it? But then the only alternative would be to just like sit on the side. There was no in between.
Yeah.
So I don't know if schools are actually better at including disabled people now, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think I had a few teachers that were always looking out for you and very conscious of it, but ultimately they've still got to get on and go look after or run a class with 50 other kids. So you're not always being looked out for 100% of the time. They do the best they can, but whenever there was a new teacher, like you said, cross country, usually I'd be able to go do something else, but a new PE teacher joined them for that first week. They're like, right, no, come on, run, like go, off you go and stuff. And you just being like a good student cracks on and tries to do it until another teacher sees you and they're like, what are you doing? Like, stop, what are you? And then they go have a word with the teacher and say like, no, he can't do this or it's going to take him longer and stuff. And yeah, but never had any, there was some horrible teachers that I had, but again, nothing to do with the condition or sports or PE. They were just horrible teachers,
that's the
just
thing,
aside
isn't
from
it?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but as I say, it's also just part of that growing up in general. Like I don't think anyone feels fully comfortable when they're going through puberty, and everyone starts
Exactly,
becoming
yeah.
interested in
Yeah.
relationships and romantic stuff, and no one's really comfortable in their own skin anyway. So, but you're just uncomfortable for different reasons.
You've
I'd
just
say.
got like that extra thing to always look out for and
Yeah,
to be able to have to communicate that with your friends as well is probably quite difficult. And I didn't really tell anyone about my condition apart from like a couple of really close friends or people that I really trusted within my little circle that would help me up the stairs or walk with me to the lift that no one else was allowed to use. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'd get questions for it, but I would always kind of brush it off and be like, oh, I have like a thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't until really I started my podcast that I was truly able to be open about my disability, especially with people that you've grown up with, because
Yeah.
you just want to fit in, you know? You don't want to stand out by having something weird or like,
Different.
yeah, something different
You
from other
never want to be
people.
different growing up. That's
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
So that's interesting because I think I went to primary school from like nursery through to year 8. And so everyone I grew up with, because I'd always had symptoms, everyone was sort of aware. So I didn't have that coming out story basically to any of my friends, about, look, this is actually what I'm dealing with and this is what's going on. So everyone was just aware. They might have not known what it was called, but they knew something was going on and it was just normal life. Hence why my parents wanted me to transfer with all of my friends. But yeah, again, you move to a new school. There was a few of those awkward, weird conversations where people were like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong with you?" You're like, "Oh, come on, let's go." You're like, "Oh, it's just gonna take me a bit longer," and then you explain it to them. There's a few odd questions, but then it just becomes normal for everyone. So, yeah, that's slightly different, I think, for us
Mm.
in terms of having to speak to your friends about it or open up about it. I guess, fortunate in that it was just, again, everyday life. Nothing really changed for me.
Yeah. I love what you said about other doors closing, but other doors opening. And the fact that maybe you weren't very good at sports and you were worried about, protecting your manhood in that way, but you, in the meantime, leaned into your more like theatrical side or your creative side. And I definitely think that my condition has like influenced what I do today and where I've kind of gone because I studied theatre, which is obviously a very physical degree.
Yeah.
And I had to make a lot of adaptations because obviously acting and theatre is very physical. And I just didn't like that. I didn't like that I had to always make changes or adapt things just for me and always be different from other people. And I know that there are ways to integrate that, but I was like, I want a job where I can just be fully me without having to feel bad or be that burden that, you have to change the entire production because
Yep.
of me.
Yep.
So I ended up going down the route of like media and stuff instead. And my voice obviously is not going to be affected by my LGMD, touch wood. So the
It's a
podcast
voice
kind
for
of,
radio. It's a face
yeah,
for radio as well. So
thank you.
I'm joking. I'm
Cheers.
joking.
Yeah, very great. Thank you.
I've got a question
Yeah.
for you then.
Oh, go on then.
So I know a lot of people who deal with muscular dystrophy or any sort of challenge go like, "Oh, it's made me the person I am today. Like I wouldn't be this person without it." Do you agree with that statement?
I think I'd like to hope that I'm still me, regardless of my condition. I don't think it's made me me. It's definitely a big part of my identity, and it's still like a journey to accept that, to accept the things that come with it, like needing to be different, using mobility aids. But obviously, there's the classic phrase of it's made me resilient. Advocate for myself more and to not be ashamed of asking for help. So I think it's shaped certain aspects of my identity and made me a bit more of a vocal person. And I'm a very vocal person anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and in terms of maybe what I do in my life, it's definitely influenced that. But I'm still like the same jokey old Cerys that,
Yeah.
I've always been like that since I was young and I'm still very like extroverted and creative and those aren't things that LGMD will ever change.
Yeah.
So I definitely think certain aspects. That's a good question though. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know because a lot of people turn around and they go, "Yeah, but I'm sure it's made you who you are today." And I'm like, "No, I don't think so. I think it's maybe nicer because you're more conscious of stuff going on. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't. I'd be fine, but I wouldn't be as caring, I don't think, or looking out for other people, or even bothered with any sort of charity work or anything like that whatsoever. In terms of like your humor, your interests, academia, I think you might lean into them slightly more, but that all comes from, in my opinion, that all comes from just how you brought up or your friendship circles and everything. So yeah, I don't think it's that resilient. I'd say yes, but again, it's not something I notice because it's not like I've gone, oh, I have to overcome this. It's just part of your life. So other things that other people will be like, wow, how did you do that? That's insane. You're just like, oh, that's not that big of a deal compared to what I usually have to deal with. So yeah, I guess resilient, but again, it's not like a night and day difference that you think, oh, I am now like this person. So yeah, I don't really think it does change it. Whereas I know some people go, yeah, no, I'm almost grateful for it because of how it's led me to where I am today and opportunities and everything, which I suppose there's an element of truth. I wouldn't have started my protein drinks company had I not spent 10, 12 years working out in the gym to manage my condition. But that doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't have still done something else business-wise or done well for yourself. It's just, yeah, slightly different route.
Mm.
It's a butterfly effect, isn't
It
it?
is
Just,
very much, yeah. That
yeah.
was a really good question. I'm gonna go back to
Thank you.
interviewing you now, if
Yeah,
that's okay.
sorry. Okay, my bad.
Well, obviously, you need to tell us about JUCED, and I don't want you to just dive into that straight away. I want you to tell us the route to getting there, because I know
Yeah.
Team Jed was a thing for a while. Is it still a thing?
Ish, it exists.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, should I go from so Team Jed for a bit of context? So I was diagnosed at 8, and my parents, I think, over the next year or two, thought, right, come to terms with this, need to do something about it. And obviously, you start looking around and realize there was no cure, there was no treatment at the time, still no cure, and limited treatments, I'd say, is a fair blanket statement. Um, and so they decided, right, we're going to set up Team Jed in my honor, and started fundraising and doing loads of charity work. So they did their own half marathons, and then they got big teams of people together to run half marathons and raise loads and loads of money. And then, yeah, they were doing that from 2008 for maybe, I mean, 2016, 17, 18, like all the way through, but I think less aggressively once, funnily enough, I wasn't hitting those milestones of where they thought I would deteriorate. I think obviously it becomes a slightly less urgent in your mind, like we have to do this because I'm still doing okay, touch wood. Um, but then in 2023, I decided I'd previously done like a long distance run to raise money, whenever there was things going on at work where I could put Muscular Dystrophy UK into the hat to raise money, we'd do that. Um, but 2023, I thought, right, I want to do a proper big event now and really make Team Jed my own and actually go and raise a big chunk of money again. So I spent the next 6, 7 months, I think, planning and trying to raise awareness around an event that I was going to do. And that's where I came up with the idea of this 24-hour workout. So I love working out. I've been going to the gym since I was 14, pretty much between 4 and 7 times a week for the past 12 years. And I thought, right, I love the gym. I know I can do that because I'm not going to go and run a marathon. I can't do that. And then I thought, right, I'm turning 24. I love the gym. What if I work out for 24 hours straight? And I hadn't really thought through that and just thought it sounds great and it's got a nice story behind it. So committed to that and started, created the Instagram, created the website, started pushing this and raised, a few grand, I think, quite quickly. And I was like, oh no, I have to do this. I have to actually get on with this and do this now. So I then started training and pushing it more on Instagram and trying to, build some awareness and stuff. And I think we started speaking around that time.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, ended up doing this 24-hour workout on the 4th to the 5th of November, 2024. No, 2023.
2023, you were saying, yeah.
2023, yeah. Because I would have just turned 24. So yeah, end of 2023, did this 24-hour workout in London. Basically working out non-stop for 24 hours in some shape or form, and raised just over 20 grand to go directly towards research into muscle wasting conditions. And yeah, and then I took my foot off the pedal, was like, because that was such a big commitment. And as you know, you can't just keep asking people for money to donate. So, I've left it be since then. I was trying to do Project Shard, which is where I wanted to climb all the steps in the Shard up to the top. But I was pushing that loads on Instagram, and then we got a few angry messages from the owners, basically. So, it's
Oh,
the
no.
Qatari owners sent a few angry messages and said like stop, basically. So we gave that one a miss. And then at the end of 2024, I set up JUCED. So then turned into all of my focus on the business, and I haven't really touched Team Jed and fundraising since. But I know that once JUCED sort of gets some more legs going and we really start pushing and turning over a lot of revenue, start putting some of that back towards charity then. So yeah, there's that element of it as well, which is good. But yeah, it's so, I love fundraising because it just brings everyone together. You know, even when I live close to Tower Hill, so go and watch the marathon every year, and just the community is amazing, and the story's fantastic. So, and doing that 24-hour workout, over 100 people showed up throughout the 24 hours, mostly during the day. No one really turned up at that sort of the midnight to 4 a.m. slots. But yeah, it just brings everyone together. It's fantastic. It's just such a great thing to do, but it's a lot of work.
It's mental how far you've come, and just incredible how much you've brought the community together, how much you've raised, and how determined you've been to raise awareness as well this whole time.
Thank you.
It's just been so incredible to watch your journey. Obviously, I got to know you as you were doing Team Jed, and to see how far you've come is just, I just feel so proud of you.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, tell us about Juiced.
Yeah, so as I said, I've been working out in the gym now since I was 14. When everyone else started playing, well, they were off playing contact rugby, I was allowed to go to the gym at school. So I went and got a personal trainer to sort of teach me everything, and I just fell in love with weightlifting. So 14 through till 16, I've just loved working out, basically weightlifting. That's pretty much all I do. I don't do much other stuff. It is just lifting weights, because in my mind, I'm like, well, to try and build my strength or maintain my strength, weights is going to help me do that. And it's something that's worked for me. Again, it's not medical advice for everyone to go and do, but it's worked for me. So part of that community and that world of weightlifting is protein drinks, protein supplements, powders, trying. And I spent the next 10 years trying every single protein drink and powder, mass gainers, clear proteins, diet proteins, whey, vegan, everything. And I was just so fed up of having like these thick, claggy shakes that are just, they just sit disgustingly on your stomach, for me anyway. I know a lot of people actually have intolerances to them as well. And just having to have chocolate, vanilla, banana, carrot cake, birthday cake, like these sweet flavors, was just like, this is gross. You have to either mix it into some sort of smoothie or have it as some sort of dessert. So I just started looking around for myself. I had a little bit more money at the time. I was working in sales, and started looking around just for something lighter, easy to drink, just a few ingredients, ingredients I could actually pronounce as well on the label, rather than all this rubbish that was in there. And there was nothing at all. And I knew at the time that I wanted to start my own business, and sort of had this eureka moment after doing a lot of research into the industry, the consumer, the market, thinking we could actually make something work here. We could create a fruit-based drink where it's just a bunch of water, real fruit juices, vitamin C, and protein. And we use collagen protein, which is the right word, a lot less allergenic, and unless you're vegan or vegetarian, collagen doesn't typically upset your stomach the same way that whey does, because whey is dairy based. But yeah, just sort of put all these things together and thought we can just make a natural protein drink, which is light. It's more like a soft drink almost, as opposed to a heavy shake. And everyone started creating these protein sodas in America, these sparkling sodas. But I wanted to do a still drink because I like drinking it first thing in the morning. I don't want bubbles first thing in the morning. And yeah, just slowly, sort of bit by bit, started looking into it and setting up the company on, registering it, and then requested to go on holiday from my job at the time, and they denied the holiday request. And so I just handed my notice in, and went headfirst into it. I did a few months working at a big commercial gym to, earn a little bit of money, figure out how they stock their drinks and supplements and who's buying what. But other than that, March 25, yeah, went full time with JUCED, and it's just been, the whole focus has been growing that business, which it's incredibly hard, on a separate note, anyone looking to start a business, it's the hardest, well, second hardest thing I've ever done. The hardest thing is living with a muscle wasting condition. This is the second hardest. Um, but my whole life is doing that because I love it and because it's a product I use every day and it's something I believe in. It becomes a lot easier to do that. As I'm sure you're the same with your projects and this podcast. It's because you enjoy it. It doesn't feel like works when you're doing those late nights or the early mornings. Sometimes it sucks, but you still do it. It's not an issue.
Mm.
So yeah, my whole world has been trying to get that up and running. I mean, I imagine by the time this episode airs, we'll be fully launched onto Amazon now as well. We would have been rebranded, so what you'll see is what you'll get online. 3 flavors. There's all these exciting things going on since we just did our first fundraising round, and this is business fundraising rather than charity fundraising. So I give up some equity. People give me money for that equity. So that allowed us to go ahead and do these things like a proper rebrand, get resources behind launching on Amazon because it's very expensive and they take all your profits on there. And do a big old production run as well, 36,000 cans, and sell them. That's the main thing. I just need to go and sell them now is the key thing. So yeah, it's my whole world juiced.
Mm. And it's just so incredible that it is your passion project and you've got like a personal story behind that. It's not just something that you want to turn around just to be like a businessman. Like you've turned something really personal. You've turned something that's like that could be the worst thing about your life into something that can touch other people and inspire other people and also inspire people that you can still work out, you can still be a gym bro if you want to, even with a muscle wasting condition. And I want to ask you specifically about that gym world because I love going to the gym as well. It's looked different since I was 16. I used to run. I used to run on the treadmill. Now I struggle to walk, like
Yeah.
I need to just walk on the treadmill. I was told when I was diagnosed that I wasn't allowed to use weights at all. But
Yeah.
actually, I've found out that you can as long as you don't overdo it, as long as you find your limits. How do you find that? Because obviously you said you do a lot of weightlifting.
Yes.
How are you finding that kind of with a muscle wasting condition where the numbers, you're not looking to up the numbers? Like
Yeah.
what does that look like?
So, and as soon as I got diagnosed, when I started weightlifting, the doctors for years were saying stop weightlifting because essentially when you're lifting weights or adding resistance to your body, you are breaking down the muscle fibers. And so the assumption, therefore, is that, well, you're breaking down the muscle fibers that in a body with muscular dystrophy are already breaking down. Therefore, you're going to excel that process. But my view was always, well, if I do absolutely nothing, just sit on this chair right here for the rest of my life, I know that I'm going to deteriorate if I do nothing at all. That's just the nature of my condition. Therefore, may as well start doing a bit of trial and error and seeing what works and what doesn't. And for me, it was going to the gym and weightlifting. So when I first started out, the weights were incredibly light. Yeah, obviously, when I'm lifting weights next to a load of gym bros, rugby boys who are doing some very heavy weights, but I have actually managed to up the weight over the years, which has been, again, I don't know why I'm a bit of an anomaly, but I do have to, me personally, again, this is not medical advice. Don't come for me. I personally am able to, go into a calorie surplus when I want to try and push more weight or lift more weight in the gym. I need to be in a surplus to give my body the best chance and environment possible to go and use that extra energy to lift weights. But then when I want to, for my own personal looks, lose a little bit of fat, I will go into a slight calorie deficit. But then I've noticed when I'm in a deficit, depending on how aggressive that cut is, it can make the weightlifting a lot harder. So it's a much more like fine-tuned sort of experiment almost. It's not just like, "Oh, I'm going to cut my calories and fast for the next week because I'll just be broken in the gym." It's a much more gradual, longer process. So again, it works for me. I don't think it would work for a lot of people, but for me personally, that has worked, fortunately. But I notice if I put on too much weight, other things become quite difficult. Like if I want to hold on to some bars and hang and do some leg raises or knee raises, if I'm heavy, if I'm 75 plus kilos, I can only hold myself for sort of 10 seconds or so. But if I'm under 75 kilos, closer to that 70 kilo mark, I can hold myself for 30, 45 seconds. So those few kilograms make a difference. I think the hard thing is when you're trying to have that conversation, or be in the community in that world. Your friends are aiming to bench press 100 kilograms, and you're there with the sixes, or now I'm up to the tens, but 10-kilogram dumbbells either side. What they don't realize is, for them, if they want to add a bit of weight, they can add 2.5 kilos onto their bench. And when you've got a 100-kilo bench press and you're adding 2.5 kilos, you're adding 2.5% to your thing, right? But with myself and with us, because gyms aren't designed for people typically with muscular dystrophy, when you have to move to the next weight or the next level of resistance that's available to you, it's a huge jump up. So if you imagine, a lot of gyms go from 2.5 kilogram dumbbells, the next step up might be a 5 kilogram dumbbell. So your only option is to double the amount of weight you are lifting. It's a 100% increase. Now, if I went to my mate and said he's doing a 100-kilogram bench press, I said, right, now the only way you can train now is to go and do a 200-kilogram bench press. He is never, ever, ever, ever going to achieve that by just jumping from A to B. So I think what people don't appreciate is we either have to become a bit more inventive with what we're doing, or you're actually just limited because there isn't a 2.6 and a 2.7 and a 2.8, which would then allow us to slowly make those progressions. So that's another thing that, you're trying to work around and figure out, how do I increase resistance on my body without just taking a massive jump up to the next available weight or piece of apparatus that's available to me. So that's the next thing that I'm trying to navigate now, as I'm trying to increase my weights at the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a bit of insight into that. And
Yeah.
it does sound like you're kind of defying the odds when they're like, you can't up the weights or whatever. But I
Yeah.
think you know your body better than anyone else, and you know what you can manage. And I definitely know if I've overdone it, my body will give me signs left, right, and center. So I know what my limits are. And obviously they vary day to day, but it is a way of just, needing to adapt your workouts and just adapting life to your body. And I've definitely been a bit creative in the gym. I've got a resistance band now. I do all these crazy exercises, but it works for me. And I'm glad that you are still able to do what you love,
Yeah.
but without it limiting you too much.
It's the sanity thing as well. Sometimes maybe you do push yourself a bit too much in the gym, but it's just clearing my head. For me, that's my version of going for a run or going for a walk or whatever, is going to the gym. So I don't always need to go and kill myself when I'm working out every day. But it's like, even if it's a 20-minute session or a 30-minute session versus an hour and a half, it just clears my head, and then I can crack on doing what I'm doing. So there's that part as well that people don't appreciate. Just because you're going to exercise or going to work out doesn't mean you have to go at 100%. You just do whatever works for you in that particular day or that moment of time.
I want to ask you, obviously you've come such a long way, and I love seeing where you're going in your juice journey, in raising awareness. You've done obviously a lot of raising awareness on social media as well. What does the future hold for Jed?
It's interesting. Hopefully a caipirinha on the beach somewhere in the long run. But let's say the next 5 years or so, I think my sole focus is the business, is growing the business, and getting it to, a point where it can cover my living and, employ people as well around me, and become a bit of a household name, because it is a great product and I do really believe in it. So I want other people to access it and enjoy it as well. So that's going to be, Juiced is going to be my whole world, without a doubt. Outside of that, I think, when it comes to fundraising, I would like to do something else for charity. But again, I'd imagine that'll be tied to the Juiced vehicle. It'll be some form of product we release, or some sort of profit share for a certain amount of time. Because that will just, going through a business, assuming Juice is doing well, will allow me to raise so much more for charity than it would as an individual. So I think, yeah, my key focuses will be, I'm 26. probably need to start thinking about a girlfriend or a family at some point. But I think aside from that, it's going to be business and health always. So they're the two things. And, your priorities are going to change. Past 30, or as I approach 30, I'll probably want to ease off slightly on the professional life and start to look more into relationships and stuff. But I think, you can always do two things at once. There's your personal health, there's your social life, and then there's your professional life. And you can only put two of them on full blast at once. And I think something has to give to then dedicate on to the other thing.
It's all about balance, right?
It's all about balance, which we don't have much of. But
Exactly. I want to ask you a question that I ask all my interviewees at the end of every episode, which is, what piece of advice would you give your younger self or someone else that's maybe struggling with their diagnosis?
that's a really tough one. I would say to probably get into weightlifting and nutrition seriously earlier on. So at 14, I was still doing all the bro science, like loads of bicep curls and this and that. And you'd probably be to get serious about it as soon as you fell in love with it, because I think you're still developing by that point, and that's when your body's in the best position to build some form of strength. So I think, yeah, just get serious with it very quickly. Advice to someone else struggling with their condition, I think it's that you need to realize that physical things aren't out of bounds. You can still go and do some form of exercise or some sort of sport, but just find the means to do it. So I was never going to be that good at rugby or football, but I ended up playing table tennis for England. So it's like, find what works for you. And was that,
What? That's like such a random side quest that we don't have
yeah.
time, unfortunately, to go
Yeah.
down. But
Yeah, it's like
Wow.
just find what works for you. So for me, I was like, table tennis, I don't need to be running around a huge field. I can step side to side and do that. But I think, again, more on the mental side of things, movement is so important for you. And it will look very different for different people. But if you are struggling with your condition, I think don't rule out anything physical. Find something that works for you. Or even if it's playing games or something that's like a bit of an outlet is so important. Like fresh air and getting your mind off of things is going to be so important. So don't assume you can't do stuff. Just figure out a way that works for you. Because no one else is going to figure it out. It's you that has to do it. You're the one with the condition. You'll get all these suggestions, people on your shoulder saying, "Oh, have you done this? Come and try this and everything?" It's like, do something, but you need to figure it out. It's the most important is that you take that charge, you take that accountability, and go and figure out what makes you feel better.
and that it's something that you enjoy doing as well, like
Yeah,
not because you feel like you have to.
this is it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. It has to be something you enjoy. Otherwise, you might do it for a month or two, but then pack it in. It needs to be something you want to do, every other day or whatever for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. And we're going to have to get you on for a part 2 to talk about that table tennis
Yeah,
because that's so
absolutely.
funny.
Yeah,
Well,
amazing.
Jed, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been so lovely to finally have you on. And I'm just so grateful for our friendship. And even though we only live a couple hours apart, I'm just so grateful that you're always on the other end of the phone
Absolutely.
and I'm just so proud to see you smashing it as well.
Stop it. Thank you. You too. The same goes for you, obviously.
Thank you. Where can we find you on social media?
So juiced.co.uk, JUCED.co.uk. So imagine juiced without the I, and everything. My whole life now is on there. My story, the products, it's all through there. So I think that's the place that I'd direct people to.
Absolutely. And we will link the website in our bio as well in the description of this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching or listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to rate the podcast 5 stars if you haven't already, because that really helps me out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending some time with us, and I will be back with you guys very soon with another episode. Until then, bye.